you know what? I don't have your contact information anymore. No, but I need to get. Can I give you my phone number? And then you text me everything. You ready? Me too. 757-816-4478. Please. I appreciate that. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Yep. 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 But you know, we've been, that's why I'm so glad you were on it because you've been doing this work forever. Because I've been working with you in different capacities, different spaces for close to 20 years. And I remember when I used to do the conflict resolution workshops, and people, people see me, but they don't know how long I've been doing this work. And we didn't do this work for the money.
Look, I follow orders. You told me at 10 after. I'm ready.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I am Vicki R. Williams Cullens. I am the Social Action Chair for the Newport News Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And I welcome you to this initiative that we have brought forth, which is called Beyond the Ballot. And essentially what this initiative is about is after the constitutional officers have been elected, what goes on after that? It is so important for our residents of Newport News to engage with our constitutional officers. Now, last month, we had the privilege of having the Clerk of Court, Angela Reason, as our first guest, and now we have the privilege of having Sheriff Gabe Morgan as our second guest. Gabe, you want to say something to the folks out there?
Well, the first thing I want to say is thank you first, Vicki, for having this. As I said to you earlier, it is important not just to elect folks, it's important to stay behind them because getting in office, I don't want to say it's the easy part, but it is the easy part. Delivering is the hard part. And sometimes when we're doing heavy lifting, we need the audience, we need the public, we need the citizens to be engaged to help us move that project or get that initiative going. So thank you for doing this. And as a member of the Divine Nine, I love that crimson and cream. But I just thank y'all for doing this because truly this is something that's needed, and thank those that are out here and took time out of their busy schedule to sit here and be educated, and also for those that may be watching online. Thank you.
I appreciate that. So we got a little icebreaker for you, Gabe.
All right.
What do citizens often get wrong about the sheriff's office?
I think the main thing that folks get wrong is that we're not part of the city. And when I say we're not part of the city, we're not a city department. We work very closely with the city in a collaborative way. However, I am a constitutional officer, and my office is a political subdivision of the state, which means that everything that the city can do, contracting, all those kind of things, I can do with one exception, and that is I can't appropriate my own money. So any monies that come to my office, whether it's federal, state, whatever, it goes through the city first before it comes to me.
So many people, they see the badge and they assume the sheriff's office is another arm of the police department. Could you explain the unique constitutional duties that distinguish your office from the Newport News Police Department?
Okay, I guess the easiest way to put it is that the city is incorporated, and in their incorporation and their charter, they have the right to stand up their own police department within their charter. So the police department gets their power from the city charter, and the police chief works for the city manager and the assistant city manager, and of course council by default, right? The sheriff, I work for you. The 180-something thousand people in the city of Newport News is who I work for. My powers come from the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia. If there is no police department established, then I am required to do those duties along with any other duties that I have. So, I guess where there is a police department that's been stood up, the sheriff will do normally the courts, civil process, they will do jail or prisoners, and they will also do law enforcement as a secondary, like in the city of Newport News, for example. The deputies will give you a ticket or arrest you the same as a police officer. They may answer a call from 911, right? But their primary duty is not to answer those calls because they're paying the police department to do it. Now in the county, take York County for example, the sheriff's office does it all, right? So when you look and you read the Code of Virginia, a police department or the police is empowered with the power of the sheriff, because in the Constitution, that's where the power for enforcement comes from.
Interesting. Now, I know that certainly your powers are based on the Constitution
Yes.
of Virginia,
Yes.
but I didn't know that particular dynamic, so thank you for explaining that.
So to take it one step further, I'm the executive officer of the courts as well.
Okay.
So when you think about it this way. A judge is sitting on his bench, he has his black robe on, and he looks and he says, I order X. You'll never see a judge get off that bench and go do X. Who does X?
The deputy.
The sheriff.
The sheriff.
Everything, every piece of paper that comes out of the court in the form of an order comes to me, and we execute it. So that's one of the primary difference between the police department and the sheriff. I also execute, besides criminal law, I execute civil law. Police department forbidden from executing civil law with a few exceptions. They will do a protective order, which is a civil matter. They're empowered to do that. But they can't, for example, if you're going to sue someone, and papers need to be served on them, we will do that. The police can't do that. Evictions, something that everyone hears about all the time, right? When the judge says I give the order of possession to the plaintiff, that paper comes to me and I have to execute.
I see.
There are other things that happen. For example, if you don't pay your taxes, everybody got a car tax.
Yeah.
And remember, how many people remember the decals,
Yeah.
right? The decals went away, right?
Yes.
They were paid,
But
right?
the tax didn't.
The tax didn't go away. And you're still required to pay your tax. And the way they used to know whether or not you paid your taxes is by that decal, right? Well, now the decal went away. How does Newport News make sure that you paid your taxes?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. Next time you see one of my vehicles going by and you see these license plate readers sitting up there,
Oh.
they're reading your license plate to find out whether or not the vehicle is stolen and if you paid your taxes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm glad I paid my taxes.
And we will seize a vehicle if it's over a certain amount to ensure that you pay your taxes, right? And that's part of the civil enforcement piece. I'll give you another example. You own a business. You're not paying your taxes, right? Your business tax, right? Well, guess what? The treasurer will issue a distress warrant,
Okay.
right? We will go into that business. We'll inventory everything in there. We'll take the money out to register in the safe. We'll inventory all of that. We turn that over. If it doesn't satisfy the bill, then we auction the property to make the difference of the bill. All those kind of things fall under the office of the sheriff.
So there's a lot of interconnection with the
Yes.
court, with different constitutional officers, such as the treasurer. Thank you so much for that explanation. I think that we're all going to be looking for those cars.
Try to run from them, right?
That part. Now, I believe I'm right on this, that you've been in office now close to 20 years.
Over 20,
Over 20?
yes. I exceeded 20 in January.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
So, what is the most significant change that you've seen in those 20 years?
Well, where do I start? First, I never had the opportunity to transition with the outgoing sheriff and the incoming sheriff. He refused to allow me into the office.
It's unfortunate.
Yes. So I had no idea what I was walking into. When I walked in, I couldn't believe what I saw. The jail, and most of you may, if you don't know where the jail's located, it's on 26th Street. It's 7 stories tall, and there are absolutely no windows in the jail. The jail was built for 248 inmates at the time in 1972, I believe it was built. It was designed in 68, 67 time frame and built in 72. When the jail was built, the first floor was the magistrate, the second and third floor was the police department, and the 4th floor up was the jail. So the kitchen is on the 4th floor because that's where we started, right? So you think about all the shipment of, and we put out over 2,000 meals a day. That comes in on the 1st floor, and we got to get it up to the 4th floor. So the entire design of the jail was not designed for what we're dealing with today. So I told you it was built to house 248 people. When I walked in the door, there were 750 people incarcerated.
So, how do you manage that?
Well, my first thing was, this has to be against a fire code of some kind.
I would think
this is a problem. How, how do we how do we allow this to go on? And if you think about a one-man cell that had maybe 3 or 4 people, and at the time, as city manager told me basically it was good enough for the last sheriff, it should be good enough for you. And basically go sit down. Now, the way this works is I don't own the building, and I don't own the infrastructure. I operate it, so it's kind of like I lease the building, if you will, for an example, and I operate that building, but it's the city's responsibility to provide the building. So going to the city manager didn't work. Went to the state fire marshal. State fire marshal basically said, it's a city building, that's up to the city fire marshal. Well, the city fire marshal works for who? City manager. The city manager said, go sit down. Well, if you know me, you know that that wasn't going to happen. When I'm looking in there and I saw the level of human suffering, it looked like the belly of the Amistad. I went to Fort Eustis first and tried to get 250 soldiers from Fort Eustis. And they said, nah, we can't help you. Went over to Norfolk, the 3-star that was over there. He and I served together in Bosnia, and I said, hey, I need some help. I need 200 sailors. I want to do an evacuation drill. I want to prove that this place is unsafe. So at the time, he looked at me, he said, you've always had a set. I don't know what you're up to, but don't get me in any trouble, is basically how he said it. He sent me over to the yard where the Senate was located, and they were working on the Senate. And he said, go see the captain now. I have my aide call over to him. So I go over to the Senate, see the captain over there, and said, hey, I need 200 of your sailors. He looks at me, he's like, what are you talking about? I said, Admiral said that you provide 200 sailors. So I explained to him what I wanted him to do. I said, I want to do an evacuation drill. But I can't do an evacuation drill with inmates because, yeah, that's not going to have good results, right? So he reluctantly agreed, but you know, 3 stars telling him to do it, so he reluctantly agreed. He said that he had one condition, that I could not show the face of his sailors behind bars. That's easy, no problem. So I started to walk out, and then I realized I didn't have a way to transport those 200 sailors. So I had to turn around, go back to him and say, oh, by the way, I need you to bust them to me. And he kind of gave me that look. Bottom line is he agreed. I went to Hampton University. I got their media department to be recorders, to record the event. Then I had codes and compliance, the fire marshal, and I believe it was engineering. And there were 2 groups, one on the 7th floor, one on the 6th floor. And then we began to we took the inmates off of the 7th and the 6th floor, which was over 200 inmates at that time. Put them in the yard, put them across the street in the gymnasium, and we began to put the sailors in the cells.
Right.
And the first thing we did, first of all, I told you there was, and if I'm going too long, tell me.
Oh yeah, I'm about to tell you.
Okay. And so we did the evacuation drills. At the time, we had to open every cell singular. We also had no sprinkler or anything. They had to don scuba equipment, kind of ran drills, and with Hampton University as the recorders, the fire department, we ran a drill on the seventh floor. Then we ran a drill on the seventh and sixth floor to see what the throughput was going to be. Then we introduced theatrical smoke.
So let me ask you this, because I'm going to stop you right
All
now.
right.
No. What I want to ask is, when you did all this,
Mm-hmm.
and the outcome, what you were trying to show them is how dangerous
Absolutely.
this building was
Yes.
for the amount of inmates in this particular building.
Absolutely.
So, with the outcome, were you able to get money to expand?
We got money to improve life safety.
I see.
So we acquired the old juvenile building across the street
Okay.
and converted that to relieve some of the pressure. We installed sprinklers. We put in electronic locks so that we can open the doors electronically instead of going and open each one. And we put in a overpressure system over the escape route. And I won't even talk about the
No,
escape
we're not
route.
going to talk about that part. Thank you.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing though is the importance of partnerships
Yes.
outside of the city.
Yes.
And when you hear a no, how you look at it, and then you have to strategize to get to your common goal along with those particular partnerships.
Without a doubt.
So that's important, y'all. Building those relationships, building those partnerships, and knowing that there are times where people are going to say no, but you have to look at it from the greater good. And the greater good was the safety, the life and safety of the people in the city jail.
And you have to care.
You have to
I'm
care.
just going to tell you right now, with the exception of a few family members, no one advocates for inmates. And if you have a sheriff and a sheriff office that doesn't care or really don't understand, it's a recipe for disaster.
You just kind of piggybacked on something I want to talk about that I know is a passion of yours, is reentry. And I'm not certain, when did you start the reentry council?
In 2007,
Because I was on that. I served on that for a number of years. Share with us the importance to you as to why that reentry council was pivotal to the life and safety of the people who were in jail.
you know, I started reentry before reentry was popular. I started reentry because 95% of everyone that's incarcerated is coming back to our community at some point or another. Unless you get life without parole, back then it was the death penalty, they took that off the table. You were coming back. And the question becomes, how do you want them to come back? Do you want them to come back as productive citizen, or do you want them to come back as a menace to society? And I'm gonna be quite frank with you. A lot of that is opportunities. How do you position them for success? So we started reentry before it was popular because we understood that they were coming back to our community. Not only were they coming back, they were our brothers, they were our sisters, they were our cousins, they were our friends. If I asked you right now, if you know someone or if you had someone in your family incarcerated, raise your hand. And every time I do that, look around the room, right? And some people may be shy, don't want to put their hands up, right? But 9 times out of 10, more than 60% of the people in the audience raised their hand.
Absolutely.
So they're coming back. They're ours, right? So one of the things we realized was they needed jobs. So we started planning for their reentry. We have case managers who actually work with them. Soft skills, also with finding a job. They go out, they make the contacts to find jobs. The reentry council was a way of bringing the community into the picture so that everybody around the table had something to add. And what I didn't want to do is have the different organizations in worked as one, and you did what you could do, then that person's success was probably more assured than folks trying to fight about, well, I need to do this or I need to do that. And we realized that meaningful employment was one of the important parts of it. So we got the city to take away
Ban the box.
right? Took that off. Newport News was one of the leads in that. We got that off. We've gone as far as we've signed agreements with the Newport News, City of Hampton, Waterworks, HRSD, and I have someone right now that's retiring with 15 years with the city. He went from being an inmate to working for Public Works, and now he's retiring from the city. And he said something that made it all worth it for me. He was interviewed on TV and he said, the people I spent my entire life running from, the Popo, they're the only folks that really stepped up to help me. And that right there said it all, because that's what we wanted to do. You know a number of other people, I won't call, well, you know Joe Hudson.
Absolutely.
He was fantastic.
He was fantastic.
He reunited with his daughter. I mean, listen, folks, I can tell you individual stories, but I'll tell you that reentry works. And don't get me wrong, we can't save everyone.
Sure.
Some folks are dealing with some demons that, we can't do anything about it. And they're gonna have to come to terms. But the ones that we can, we're giving them opportunities.
I appreciate that. And restoration of rights, as anybody knows, is a passion of mine, and it's been a passion of mine because my father did a bid, and he lost his right to vote, and it broke him as a man. So I was determined, once I found that out, how to help people get their rights restored, I was determined to assist. Now, for the first time, we have the constitutional amendment to restore the rights of former offenders on the ballot in November.
Automatically.
Once they
Pay their debt to society.
pay their debt to society. What does that mean to you?
Virginia's one of only a few states that does not restore the right automatically. And the question is, if it's about restoration, and when I say restoration, right? Someone's done wrong, they paid their debt, restore them to full citizenship. Don't use invisible barriers, like you can't live here, you can't apply for this, you can't do this, and oh, by the way, you can't vote. Well, if you tell someone you can't vote, they feel disenfranchised, like they don't have a voice. You help to silence them. And, I'm not going to tell you that all of this is by design, but I'm going to let you make up your own mind on that one.
That's a good point. But it's so funny that you say that, and I wanted to make sure that our audience knew about the constitutional amendment that will be on the ballot in November, because it took decades for it to get there. Because when you have a constitutional amendment, it has to pass both sides of the House. It has to then be reintroduced exactly the way that it passed both sides of the House for it to be able to be placed on the ballot. And it would either pass one year and then the next year it wouldn't. So it was always something that stopped it. And this year, it is on the ballot for November, so we want to make sure. Yes, sir.
Folks, this is so important. I supported Jay Jones for Attorney General for a reason. I supported Abigail Spanberger for a reason. I supported Don Scott when he first started. When you look at our legislature and you look at our three heads of the state, we are in a position today achieve things that we have not been able to achieve, this is the time. You know,
We'll stop right there.
okay.
But I appreciate that. Now, I'm gonna do a few quick questions for
Sure.
you, because I want to be mindful of everyone's time. What is one service your office provides that would surprise most residents?
You ready for this? One,
One.
the acquisition and proper disposal or disposition of unclaimed bodies in the city of Newport News.
Okay, can we do a different one?
You asked for one that will surprise you. How many of y'all were surprised with that one?
I was, but can we do one more? I wasn't ready for that one.
She said one, right?
I did say one, but
Come
I can
on.
change the rules though.
Okay. I think that the other one is that would surprise you.
That one did surprise everybody.
Yeah.
It surprised everybody out there in social media land too. They're like, what? I'll let you stew on
yeah,
that
come
one.
back on
I'm
that
gonna come back on that.
So, I want to give you something unique, and that was unique.
That was. I think we can all agree.
Well, last year was 45 bodies.
Thank you, Gabe. And so I think you can answer this one right off the rip.
Okay.
What is the most rewarding part of being the sheriff?
I can speak truth to power, and without being afraid of losing my job. Stand up for what's right, unapologetically, and you know what? Just stand on my truth.
Fair enough. So, finish this sentence. A safe Newport News looks like.
It looks like someplace where, if you remember Leave It to Beaver. I'm just
See,
joking.
you're telling our age.
Yeah, we're telling our age, right? But no, it looks like someplace where you can allow your child, a small child, a little young
he's
man
back
out
there
here, he's back
working.
there, he's working, okay,
Yeah, he's working.
to go outside in the front yard and play, and you don't have to be a helicopter over them. It looks like someplace where you can walk through any community, traverse any area, and not be afraid to walk through that area. It's a place where you feel like, you know what, my neighbors care, and the people around me care about my well-being. That's what a safe Newport News looks like to me.
So, I know mental health is also a passion of yours. And we've all read, we've all seen the studies that there are a lot of folks who are in city jails who have mental health issues or mental health challenges. How does the sheriff's department support the people who are in jail when they have these mental health issues?
Well, first I'm going to tell you, if you Google it, the Inspector General report for the state of Virginia said that most mental health beds are within the jail. It's not something I said. It's what the Inspector General found. And that's an indictment on the system. Currently, a third of our jail report some form of mental illness. And 50% of that third has what is stated as SMI, serious mental illness, right? So this is something we were not prepared for, and I don't want to get into when I served on the Commission for Mental Health Law Reform, but if you remember Eastern State was
Yes.
an entire campus.
Yes.
They had an adolescent ward, geriatric ward. I mean, it was, and they decided that people would be better served in the community versus did away with that. People moved back to the community, but they weren't properly supervised, and as a result, these folks began to decompensate. It's so hard to find a bed to get someone into to get them help. It's easier to lock them up. So they get locked up on trespassing, they get locked up on petty crimes sometimes. And because of their mental state, sometimes it takes a year to 2 years to get them right, to get them before the courts to have a trial. For us, we do an assessment on intake to try to assess that, but part of that is self-reporting unless we know them or unless the CSB tells us that they were a client. Then we've hired 2 mental health professionals that operate in the jail, so there's always someone evaluating them, and we have a psychiatrist that we hire to help. But part of the problem is restoration of competency. We have some folks that need serious help, but there are no beds at the state hospital to get them to. And when there is a bed, sometimes we have to travel 4 to 5 hours one way to put them in a bed. The mental health system in Virginia is broken. The legislators have been aware. You know, Creed, son,
Yes, I remember.
that situation.
Tragic.
They tried to do something after that. They still have not fixed the problem. We have a capacity problem in Virginia. And until we fix that, the jails will continue to be full. And quite frankly, the deputies have been asked to do so much with so little. Think about it. Mental health. You know how many people come into our facility detoxing?
I can just imagine.
You know, you think the opioid epidemic is just happening outside? Well, guess what? They show up at our doors, and we have to deal with them. We have, and this is part of mental health, we have what's called medically assisted treatment. So if they need Suboxone, if they need methadone, if they're already prescribed, we'll continue them on their medication. These are all strain and things that we're not prepared to deal with, but we do it because guess what? We care.
So let me ask you this. You've talked about a lot of tough subjects. And unfortunately, these are subjects that are uncomfortable and need to be talked about.
Oh yeah.
But what programs does your office offer the community to support them and help them in a different way that's not punitive, if you will?
Well, we have a whole lot of programs.
Give me the top
biggest
two.
The biggest one is Project Lifesaver. If you have a person with diminished mental capacity, whether dementia or autism, and they are wanderers or they stray, we will outfit them with a bracelet, a locator bracelet, for free. Most jurisdictions charge for that. It costs about $300 a year to maintain someone on the bracelet. We have about 75 people in the city of Newport News, children and adults, that we put a bracelet on. And the way we fund that is we do a car show every year. We do a motorcycle ride. We go out and we try to raise the money to support that program. So that's the Project Lifesaver. The other program that we do every morning, we call seniors. There are a number of seniors that are homebound. They don't have family, and we call them every morning. I have my admin staff, before they start the day, they each get a few, and they pick up the phone, and they call them and chat with them and check on them and make sure they're okay. You know, and those are just two.
Those
And
are just two.
I can go on. We are embedded in the community. You know, Sister Hakima Muhammad's here. We've partnered with them and the children and taken them to DC every year. We sponsor a bus. I mean, I can go on and on.
And I think that what's so important, and I'm glad that you can go on, and I'm glad that know about these programs. They need to know the sheriff's office is more than just the jail,
Absolutely.
more than just mental health, more than just having to make us pay our car tax.
Car tax or court, or you show up in court.
That
We're more than
just
all of
really,
that.
I'm struggling with that one.
We have to, listen, we enforce the law because that's what we're here to do. But we do it with compassion because if you look at the, my office looks like our community, right? They come from our community, right? And they care about this community. So it's one thing, you know, for me, it's kind of a way of keeping them grounded. You know, a tree grows two ways, up and down. And it's if you just grow one way, that tree is not going to be healthy, right? Well, if we're always enforcing the law, dealing with people incarcerated, their worst time, or in court, at the worst time, you go to JDR court, someone just took the child from you, or whatever the case may be, you just got divorced, and you're dealing with people at their worst time, you can get somewhat bitter, you can get somewhat immune emotionally, and when we do all these different projects in the community, it's a way to make sure that we understand that we're not apart from this community, we are this community, and to let people know that we're part of the community.
So how can the community learn about these different projects and programs that your office supports and facilitates?
One, you go on the website. You know, I'm not one that run around and say, look at me, look at me, look at me. I do that during election time because I have to, right? But that's not who I am. I move quietly and deliberately, and I try to establish partners and collaboration throughout the community. And I will tell you that if you call my office, 926-3992, 926-3992, you have a question about any of the programs or how you can help, we used to have 150 volunteers that came into the jail to provide some sort of service or class to inmates. And the reason we had that is because we allowed the community in, because these are things that we may not be able to pay for, but through the help of volunteers in the community, we treat them with humanity and humane treatment.
Thank you so much. So I want to give you a last word. What do you want to leave with the audience? Let them know about what is like your top priority.
My top priority right now is we need a new facility. We need a new jail. This jail was built in 1960. It's an old linear style jail. We cannot deal adequately with the population that we're dealing with today without a new facility. We have no programmatic space. The mental health situation is such that we have to be able to separate them and put them in maluse spaces that we can treat them and treat their problems. The other thing is, that I didn't talk about is, we have a growing geriatric population. Yes. I have 45 people over the age of 60 incarcerated in our jail. They can't climb up on a bunk. So they gotta have a top bunk, a bottom bunk. Well, guess what? There's only so many bottom bunks. I mean, I can go on and on. It's long overdue that we need a new facility to adequately treat the people that we're dealing with on a daily basis. So that's my number one priority.
How can the residents help you with that?
Go to council and speak up.
Okay. And that's engagement.
Exactly. Write the mayor, write the city council, because at the end of the day, remember what I told you, I don't own the building. I operate the facility. So it's up to the city and the council to provide the facility. I'm asking the council to do their part. I'm asking the city manager and everyone else to do their part. But understand this, remember I told you no one advocates for inmates? Like, if you don't have a caring staff. You got schools you got to build. You got roads you have to fix, right? And you got a jail you have to replace. You got courts you have to replace. Where's the priority? And unless you work in my environment, you don't understand the urgency of this need. Not last year, yeah, we had 64 deputies injured in the line of duty. I guarantee you the police department and the fire department don't have those kind of numbers. And I'm not taking anything away from anybody else, because it takes everybody doing what they do. But the men and women who work inside that facility put it on the line every day to keep everyone in this city safe. And you think about it. The people that are currently incarcerated, 75% of them, you don't want out here in the community.
Without the appropriate supports and the appropriate.
75% of them, you don't want out here in this community.
Okay, so you just didn't want me to turn that around, did you?
I'm just telling
Truth
you.
to power, right?
I'm telling you right now, we have. I started in law enforcement in 1976. I've never seen the amount of shooters and murderers that we currently have incarcerated today. Okay? And listen, I'm all about reentry. I'm all about second chances, but I'm real about protecting this community.
Fair enough.
And I'm gonna call it the way I see it. There are folks that don't need to be on our streets. Now, they may be eligible to be on our streets later on, and we need to get them some help, and we need to get them somewhere where we can
Be reintegrated into society
exactly.
safely.
But currently, remember, jail is the entry point. Jail is not prison. Jail is where you're waiting for trial, and if you are still in jail after trial, it's a short stint. You're not doing a long bid. So the folks that I'm seeing today are the folks that were shooting up your community yesterday, and some of them still have that mentality. Now, I'm gonna be real with it now. You know, don't mistake my compassion for foolishness. We got to keep our community safe, and there's some folks out there that don't care, and they demonstrate that. I just told you I had 64 people injured. You open the door to feed someone, and they come out fighting. They come out attacking. Okay? I got folks that attack their own family members violently.
So with that being said, you know, we talked about reentry. We talked about supports. We talked about the need for a new jail to be able to have programmatic supports, to have mental health supports. And so, you know, leaving this with our audience is that they have to be engaged. They have to know what challenges that you're having, and that's what you just shared. And they have to understand that in order for change to come about, they have to be vested in their community, and they have to show up at the city council meetings, have to show up, share their thoughts and their concerns, and hopefully we'll be able to find money to be able to support and create a new jail.
Right. You have to tell the people that are in charge of the purse strings.
Yep.
It's a priority. There's also a public safety committee that council has, and you can go to those public safety committee meetings or view it online and come and see what's going on.
So one thing I want to leave the audience with is that politics is a participatory sport.
Amen.
So whatever is going on in your community, it is incumbent upon you to be an informed electorate. You have to be an informed voter, and after you vote, you have continue to ask these questions, which is why we're having Beyond the Ballot, to be able to hold Sheriff Gabe accountable. If you have concerns, you have to ask those questions. This is not something that you're voting and that's one and done. You've got to know what's going on with your city council. You have to attend the meetings either virtually or in person. And so with that being said, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy evening to join us here at this second session of Beyond the Ballot that is being brought to you by Newport News Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and we are here at beautiful Zion Baptist Church, and we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here for the community, and we appreciate you being here as well. So before I leave, I am remiss. I want to ask the president of Newport News Alumni Chapter, Quanda Griffin, to come forth and just say bye. Oh, well, I wanted to say something first. Thank you. I'll bring this to you.
Sheriff Morgan, I again want to reiterate, what Miss Vicky has said, that we greatly appreciate you taking time of your busy schedule. I think hopefully this evening has strengthened all of us, or encouraging all of us to want to do more, to be more informed, and to be more active. And I appreciate you continuing to highlight your priority areas, your what's your compassion, or what is most important to you as far as being a compassionate person. I think people see the uniform and can't see past that, and I appreciate you bringing heart to the uniform. I'll put it that way. And again, just thank you so much for participating in our second installment, and hopefully we'll have you back again.
Absolutely.
Thank
anytime.
you.
And ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the second session of Beyond the Ballot. We look forward to being at Zion Baptist Church next month on May 21st, where we will have the Commissioner of Revenue, Tiffany Boyle. Thank you so much, and y'all have a great evening.